Stand beside me. We're better as a unit. Ain't enough bullets in a gun to hit us all.
As these episodes release during this time of year, it's actually back to school time, and I want to read a quote for you all that I saw on Facebook. It was posted by Kim Downs Norway back in August 3rd, 2024. I don't know if she's the original person of this, but regardless, I think it's very important. It says, "School is almost starting, and I want to ask you a favor. Sit with your child for 5 minutes and explain that there's never a reason to make fun of someone for their height, their weight, their skin tone, their home life, or the things they enjoy. Explain there's nothing wrong with wearing the same shoes every day. Explain to them that a used backpack carries the same dreams as a new one. Teach them not to exclude anyone for being different. Explain to them that teasing hurts and that school is for going to learn, not to compete or spread negativity. Remind them some kids don't go home to loving families, so it's important to be kind. It all starts at home." So I just want to send that message out. So, school's about to start. Hey, put some positivity out there. Enjoy the episode.
What's up, everybody? Another episode of Code Switch Podcast. It's your boy Trevor here with my dog Hollywood. EB as some call him. And yeah, today we're gonna take a little bit of a different approach to the episode. So, Hollywood, maybe do you want to add a little bit of context to how we ended up landing on this specific episode in the Q&A?
Yeah, I can get into that. So what happened was I work with a group of interns, and they are excellent interns. They are very curious, ask a lot of questions, and I thought that the questions that they asked were very insightful, and I felt that it would be nice to really address some of those on the podcast. I think kind of referencing the last episode when we got into the whole 5 whys and things like that, I think a lot of people are not really confident in asking questions. They don't want to seem dumb, or they don't want to, they want to be perceived as kind of knowing. And then if they don't know, people tend to have this idea of like, I don't want to act like I don't know, right? Hopefully somebody else will ask. And I really just appreciate them coming out and asking those questions, because somebody likely has the same questions, and hopefully we can address them here.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of piggybacking off what Hollywood just said, if any of you guys follow us on Instagram, if you don't, you need to, at codeswitch.podcast. But we posted and asked for anybody to submit questions for us to answer, and that's kind of why. So this episode, we're going to go into some Q&A. We're going to go over some questions that these interns sent in, go over a couple other questions that Hollywood Cole actually provided, so big ups to her. So we have quite a list of questions that we're going to go over. Before that, though, Hollywood, I saw your shirt when you first kind of hopped on. You want to maybe show your shirt or talk about what's on your shirt a little bit?
Yeah. Let me see if I can give a preview here. I think it says Bold With It Joshua 19. So one of my good friends has a clothing line called Faithit536. You can go to faithit536.com, pick up some shirts and support there. But it's a good clothing line, Christian-based clothing line.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
What you got, Trev?
My shirt as well. Yeah. So this is actually 2021, as you guys can see, Gulf Coast Culture Fest. So this is actually put on annually by a good friend of ours, Calvo, we call him, but his real name's Calvin Griffin, film producer here in the local Gulf Coast area. And every year he puts on a festival just to kind of showcase like culture, celebrate the arts. And there's a lot of community that's involved in those festivals. So just kind of putting this on, big ups to him. And hopefully he sees this and he gets super happy.
Yeah. Big shout out to Calvo, man. Y'all gonna be hearing that name soon. He's doing big things down in Pensacola, so be on the lookout.
He is, and he's actually getting in. He's actually getting into Atlanta, man, with the filmmaking as well. So
nice.
So yeah. So I do have to ask you one question, Hollywood. This literally just popped in my mind before we really get into the episode. But you kind of talked about how you have a great group of interns. Can you talk a little bit about the process of getting those interns? Like, do you guys have a specific selection process, interview process? Like, is there a way that you guys go about picking such good interns?
Yeah, so we are very intentional about reaching out to the minority communities in
Oh, that's
places
awesome.
where we typically a lot of big companies are not at, and so we partner
Yeah.
with a specific group who are really good at reaching out to minority groups and getting and presenting a good group of just people that they have identified as like top performers and things like that, and that's typically our selection. So what I do just to kind of give some a lot more context here, is that I'll go through and I'll review some of the resumes, and I'm not giving some insight into my resume reviewing thing here, especially when it comes to interns, right?
Hmm.
It's not going to be a lot of things there, right? I want to see like,
Right,
are you
right.
touching on some of the languages that we touch on and some of the commonalities that we do? And for the most part, just take random selection for the most part, about maybe 10. Start there, and I try to build a team of diverse candidates because I want to be very intentional there. I try to remove myself from the process, and I put those diverse group of interviewers there to interview that diverse set group of people, uh, get opinions from the various people, and go from there. Make a decision from there. I really kind of allow them to make the decision. I don't
Hmm.
be directly involved in the process because again, as a minority, right? Like there's some bias there that I want to try to remove as
Yeah.
much as possible.
Yeah. Man, that's great, man. That's great. And glad to see. And see, that's why I think it's so important to have people from diverse backgrounds in positions like your position, right? Because you're able to help bring somebody up into that internship that otherwise might get looked over.
Yep,
Yeah,
I
that's
agree.
awesome, man. That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, sweet. So yeah, getting into the episode, this is going to be, just us kind of having a dialogue, going over the various questions that were presented. Before we jump into that, like similar to uh last episode, Hollywood, do you want to give a brief intro of yourself?
Yeah, so Emmanuel, engineering manager at one of the biggest automotive technology companies. Been doing this for you about what 12, 13 years at this point.
Yep.
Just growing and building in a career, love coding, real big into coding. Even as a manager, I still get into the weeds of everything, or at least try to get into the weeds of everything and contribute the best I can. How about you, Trev?
Sweet. Yeah. Trevor Evans. So, senior engineer. Also have some management experience, but currently in an IC role. About a decade of experience in web development, and one of Hollywood's mentees. So I actually learned a lot from this guy. I always big up him. He loves to take himself out of it and say, "Oh, he learned a lot of this on his own." But no, Hollywood's actually a mentor of mine, and just grateful to be a part of this with him. So
Hey,
yeah.
let me give a shout out real quick because Trev put these scripts together. Trev needs a lot of credit here. Like these scripts be on point. Like
Ah,
they're formatted well. Hey, Trev does a lot. So and he runs the social media campaign for the most part. So yeah, no, big shout out to Trev.
hey, but Hollywood does all the back end, right? So like all the stuff y'all seeing with the split screens and the reels, like Hollywood does all that, man. So I feel like my job is a lot easier compared to what he's doing. Cool. All right. So before we jump into these questions, man, you know how I am, and I gotta take it biblical first, man, because we always gotta keep God and Christ at the center of everything. It's the only way that we can kind of put forth guidance and insight, coming from the right place. So the scripture that I chose for this episode is this is actually kind of lengthy. So it's going to be Matthew chapters 5 through 7. I'm not going to try to read all of it, but for y'all out there listening, I would encourage you at some point go read Matthew chapters 5 through 7. So to give you guys a little bit of context into what those chapters entail, Jesus was going around and he was, performing miracles, and this multitude had gathered that was following him, right? Because he was doing all of these miracles. And so he basically went up into a mountain and he basically taught, basically gave a sermon, if you will. And that's what Matthew chapters 5 through 7 are. It's basically just Jesus just straight teaching, giving game. Now, I want to call out a few different verses because I feel like they relate really well to the concept of asking questions. So those specific verses, number one is going to be Matthew 7th chapter, verses 7 through 11. So I'm going to read that. Ask and it shall be given you. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. For everyone that asketh receiveth, and he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be opened. Or what man is there of you, whom if his son ask bread, will he give him a stone? Or if he ask a fish, will he give him a serpent? If ye then, being evil, know how to give good gifts unto your children, how much more shall your Father, which is in heaven, give good things to them that ask him? So basically the point there is just, hey, don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to seek wisdom. Don't be afraid to seek counsel. Like never be afraid to seek those things. Another point I want to call out on that same note is make sure that your heart is postured correctly. Make sure that when you're asking questions, when you're seeking counsel, that you're doing it for the right reasons, because you truly are curious, or you truly are trying to improve yourself or improve your situation or whatever it is, but don't ask questions because maybe you're trying to plan some sort of malicious, intentful attack or some sort of revenge or anything like that. And the thing about God is he knows where your heart is, right? You can see that in other various scriptures where Jesus gets questions from like the Pharisees and the Sadducees, right? And he doesn't really give them the time of day because he knows that their hearts aren't in the right place. So make sure you just have the right intentions when you're asking questions. And the last point I want to bring up is make sure you know who you're seeking counsel from. And there's kind of another excerpt I want to read, which is Matthew 7th chapter, 15 through the 20th verses. So I'm gonna read that. Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. You shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns or figs of thistles? Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. Wherefore by their fruits ye shall know them. So, make sure that you have discernment, right? Make sure that whoever you're listening to, actually like their actions come before them, otherwise you can really get led into some messy situations. You can take advice from the wrong people and end up making some bad decisions. So just make sure that whoever you're seeking counsel or wisdom from, like their actions, precede them, and make sure that you have some discernment, and you can get that from the Lord. So just kind of wanted to, set the stage, and make sure that everybody's kind of postured correctly as far as asking questions and seeking counsel, man.
Yeah, bro.
It is. They saw that you were originally in business administration and management. And their question is, what caused you to pivot to tech?
Yeah. So the answer I had given on this, right, is that growing up, I've always had a servant's heart, right? I always wanted to give back and things like that. And so get to high school, right, and trying to decide, hey, what's after high school? You're in high school 4 years and not really thinking about it, but it got to the point I'm a senior. Hey, I'm starting thinking about it, right? And so, one way to give back and what was really popular in my community was actually becoming a teacher. And so I decided that, I was going to become a teacher. I was going to teach, and that's how I was going to help teach the next generation. Well, I was fairly intelligent, right? So I was Googling salaries back then, how much people make. And I saw the salary of a teacher, and I was just like, yeah, I think I could do more with more money. So
Right.
so I ended up deciding that, I like computers. I like messing around with computers. So let me jump into computer science. Seems like the natural thing to do, right? So I go to community college and I major in computer science. Well, as part of that, I had to take chemistry. Now, again, like there are some things in chemistry I just didn't understand, right? So when we got to like balancing equations, bro, I could balance equations. Hey, numbers, I was good at numbers. But no lie, Trevor, I think it was like H2O or something written on the board, and she drew some electrons, and she made an electron jump from over here to over here. Trevor, I was lost. And I was looking around in class. I was trying to figure out, like, I don't understand. Did I miss a lesson? How did it just jump, right? And so, honestly, I wouldn't even pass the class if it wasn't for one of the smartest kids back in my high school. They allowed me to join their lab team with him and his girlfriend at the time. And shout out to Jonathan Weeks, by the way. And he, so getting through there, and I never forgot I was struggling, Trevor. Like in that class, I was struggling. It's probably one of the first and only class I really struggled in, even though I was trying. And we got to the end of the class or end of the semester, and I'll never forget the teacher brought me outside in the hallway, and she was like, "Emmanuel, you got a D." I was like, "Thank you." Walked smooth out. And so literally changed my major into business administration. And she actually sent me an email and was like, "Hey, I noticed you didn't sign up for chemistry too." And I was like, "Yeah, as a business major, I don't have to take chemistry too." So I ended up graduating the community college, going to Ole Miss, and as part of Ole Miss business school, they had management information systems. Okay. And so I decided to go that route because it was still dealing in the technical world. It was more for like business analyst, project management, career path though. But take some coding classes. Found out I was fairly good at coding. Right? Just wasn't good at chemistry. And got my first job in coding, and that's the story she wrote.
Oh man, that's cool. I didn't know that you originally wanted to be a teacher.
Oh yeah. I still want to teach. I actually want to teach coding now, and as part of giving back, I do plan on doing that and do plan on starting that. So y'all be on the lookout for that into Codeverse on Instagram. You won't see nothing there right now, but it's coming.
It's in the works. It's coming. Yeah. The funny thing, my brother actually wanted to be a teacher at first, and I think similar to your experience, he kind of looked at like the salaries that teachers made, and he was like, okay, yeah, maybe I need to go a different route. And so he ended up going business management.
Yeah, and shout out to teachers who make that sacrifice, right? Like all the respect. Thankless job, really.
And man. Yeah, and it's one of those things, right, where like I don't know like what we need to do to fix that problem, but it's a problem, right? Like teachers should be paid more, but like I guess I don't know enough. I'll be honest, I don't know enough about, kind of on the local scale or state scale or even the federal scale of what would need to change in order for them to, get paid more. Because obviously the money has to come from somewhere, right? And I'm not saying that I'm against pulling that money from somewhere. I guess it's just more like, well, where will we take the money from? But I definitely think we should, they should be paid more.
Yeah. There's always money available when when people need it, right? Not to get into all that, but I probably wouldn't start with dismantling the Department of Education. That's neither here nor there.
Yeah, right. For the record, I agree. Yeah, so I'll go a little bit into kind of my background. So I, did high school, became a senior, and I was real big into music. And so, I spent a lot of time on my laptop just, fooling around with beats or doing songs. I was constantly doing music with people at my school. And I was kind of one of the main people like at my school that actually knew how to like record songs and like layer everything. So, a lot of people would be like, oh yeah, you got to set up, let's work together. And became a senior. And a funny thing, I actually did not want to go to college initially. And the reason for that was because all my friends were like in my hometown. And so I felt like, well, if I go to college, I'm going to leave all my friends behind, this life of just, I had a car on the weekends, I just go hang out with them, tons of laughter and just goofing around, not doing anything, being lazy. And so I didn't want to leave that behind, and it took my mom talking to me and basically saying like, you're going to college because if you don't, there's nothing for you here. And you're just going to be like one of those dudes that I see all the time walking down the street, with nothing, she worked for Head Start. And so she's, a lot of people in the community would come to the school. A lot of people in the community would just be around that area. And so she saw how a lot of adults move. And so she didn't want that for me. Right. And so she was like, no. She was like, you're going to college. So she forced me. She sat me down. She was like, she made me put in applications. And, I was giving her a hard time. And I was like, I don't even know what to major in. And she was like, well, you're always back there fooling around on that computer. She was like, why don't you go into computer science, And so I did. I was like, fine. And I just picked computer science. I actually ended up getting a full tuition scholarship. I had to take the ACT like 5 times because obviously I got it high enough to where I got accepted. But then I saw something on my school's website. I went to Troy University. And I saw something on their website where they said that, like, I can't remember what the name of the scholarship was, but it was basically full tuition and you had to get like a 27 on the ACT. And like my first time I got like a 21. And I would listen to my mom talk and she would talk about how, if I didn't get a scholarship, her and my dad would have to figure out some kind of way to like put us through, because my brother was already in school and he didn't have like, I think he had like a small scholarship, but it wasn't like full tuition. So she was basically alluding to like, I might have to pick up a second job or something like that. And that really just hurt me because I didn't want to see her like have to, put in that much effort just for us to go to school. So I made a commitment and I was like, I'm going to get that scholarship no matter how many times I had to take the ACT. So I would literally like do the ACT, get the score back. If it was too low, I was like, dang, sign up again, study, take it again. Eventually I got the score. So got the full tuition scholarship, went to Troy. I actually majored in computer science and I loved it. Like I got into my first coding class, which was C++. And I was like, this is awesome, And so I just fell in love with coding, similar to your experience, Hollywood. I would say the one course that gave me the biggest heartburn was algorithms. That was tough, man. Because and looking back, I feel like where I struggled at is with coding, it's problem solving, right? So it's like, okay, I have this problem. I'm trying to solve this problem with code. And so you just work through the problem iteratively. Versus with algorithms, I feel like these are things that have already been solved and I just have to memorize them.
Yeah.
Where I struggled at is I was trying to understand like, well, how did they get there? Yeah. And I was like way too deep in the weeds to the point where like I was trying to understand the math of it the math wasn't mathing. And so so I came out of algorithm. I think I came out of algorithms with a C, which actually isn't that bad. But still, like, that was tough. Algorithms was very tough. Discrete math was also very tough because it's very theoretical. So it was just like, that was another class where I struggled really bad.
Yeah, the algorithms is a funny one because in Java 1, I got an A. I was great in Java 1. It's the basics and stuff like that, right? So, I'm feeling myself, right? So I'm going to go take Java 2. Bro. So I got a C. And I'll never forget, I didn't have to take the final because I had a C. Back in Ole Miss, you only had to have a C at this point to like get credit for the class, right? So, I'm aiming for the C at this point. But the algorithm, there was a question on the test. It was a take-home test. You had to code it up or whatever. And there was a question on the test where it's like, build this 2-dimensional array and every other block should be like a gradient of gray and the other blocks are white, right? Bro, I could not figure it out, dog. I could not figure it out. But again, I'm intelligent, right? So I said, they're going to run this through a machine. They're not going to go and look at the code, right? They're going to run it through some test cases. So I'll make it pass at least one of those test cases. I hard code the array. So I hard coded literally the output, and it passed. It passed one of the tests. It failed a couple of them. Then the rest of them, right? But it didn't really matter. I got partial credit, and it was no credit to pass. That's what it is.
Hey. Sometimes, I mean, hey, on the college scale, do what you got to do, you know.
But they say work smarter, not harder, right?
Man, that man, I'm bad about these tangents, but that made me think about something. I feel like leak code is becoming very prominent now, and I feel like those are like the types of questions that you see on leak code, where it's like, oh, two-dimensional array, and try to find, I don't know, a number or a character at some location index or something, you know, bro. Like I've tried working through some of those questions. I'll be like,
yeah, a big old notation and all that stuff. Like, I don't have time for this, right? Like the leak. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
But I was just gonna say this for big old notation. I actually know like very basic like general like runtimes depending on like what a function is doing. It's when it gets into like those edge cases that I'm like, I don't know what this is, you know?
Yeah. I'm not even there, dog. Like I've tried it, right, and it's to the point where here's the thing: the companies try to use it as a barometer for being able to code, right? And to me, it's a gift and a curse, right? If somebody's able to do leak code, honestly, in my opinion, I actually wouldn't take it as, oh, they're really good at coding. I would take it as they're really good at studying the questions and completing the questions, right? And that has its merits, right? Because you're willing to put in the work. Okay, fine. Hey, you know, because I'm not. I'll be honest with you, I'm not.
Right. Well, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head, right? And it's like, my thing is this: at what point is that a real world scenario, some of those problems, right? Now, don't get me wrong. I do think depending on like the company you're working at, the project you're working on, maybe runtime is a very big deal. You know what I'm saying? And I think there are like some super big differences, right? Like big O of N is very different from like n factorial, you know, something like that. But I mean, I think a lot of use cases, unless you're like Mang or like dealing with like petabytes of data or something like that, like I think a lot of use cases don't really warrant, you know, some of that stuff that these companies ask in these different interviews.
Yeah. I agree.
As someone who came from community college, what was the biggest transition going to a four-year university?
The amount of people who cared. So they're kind of giving the example of back in the chemistry class, right? My teacher, you know, took me outside. Like we had a conversation about, hey, you passed. She had been having conversations with me before, by the way. Like, hey, you need help. Yeah. You need help getting a textbook and things like that, right? Because I couldn't afford a textbook. I mean, we're fairly poor, right? So it was difficult to afford a textbook. But when you get to university, you don't really have that. At least let me say at the university I went to, because I have heard like at historically black colleges that those universities you get more of an intimate relationship with your teachers and things like that. But at least where I was at, I mean, they don't care. It's like you either show up or you don't. We get paid either way.
Yeah. Did you use Chegg at all?
Oh, I don't know what that is.
Oh man, yeah. So we didn't learn what Chegg was until probably like my sophomore. It was either my sophomore or junior year, but that helped us out a lot because we were similar situation. You know, like the textbooks were super expensive. Chegg was actually a website where you could go and actually rent textbooks, and they were like extremely cheaper. Now the caveat to that, right, is like, I don't know if you remember, but like you go to a class and the professor might say, get this book, this version. So it might be like a specific edition. Now on Chegg, it might be a few versions behind, you know, but that's what we would do. And I would rent like the book that might be a little older. But one thing that I experienced is like, it would be a little different, but it wasn't anything crazy, you know, like you could finagle your way through even with an older version of the book. that helped us out a lot, man, because those books were a lot cheaper on Chegg. I don't even know if Chegg is still around.
Yeah, it kind of sounds vaguely familiar, but the biggest money grab, right, is that version. Oh yeah, we're using the latest version. I actually had a book one time. That sounds bad, but I bought books when I could start affording them. But I actually read one time, like before class. I was like, let me just go in and read a chapter before we get to the class.
Yeah.
And I just want to kind of see how that relates. He was teaching verbatim out the book, and I'm like, oh wow,
Really?
yeah, like. So I can really just, and this is my thing, I can just go read the book. I really don't have to show up to class. Like if we're gonna do it verbatim, I don't need you to read it to me. Like I can go read it
Yeah,
myself.
yeah.
But yeah, it's some money grabs in certain courses.
Yeah, and that just shows the age, right? Because I was the same way. Like I had the books, but I really wouldn't read them, and then I would turn around and complain when I would be like, "Man, I was like this dude. I don't know what he's talking about," you know. And then I took an operating systems class my senior year, and it was a similar experience. I was like, you know what? This is my senior year. I'm gonna give it my all, and I just started reading the book. Hollywood, like I would go to class and he would like ask the class questions. I'll raise my hand, answer. I'll be right. I'm like, oh shoot, you know. So I just kept doing that, man. Just kept reading the book. And the funniest thing happened one day, because I was sitting in the back of the classroom, and one day, like he was talking about how everybody had gotten bad grades on the test. I had gotten a good grade. And he was like, Trevor, what do you do to, prepare? And I was like, read the book. And like, and like, he just got dead silent. He just looked at everybody. He was like, look, it's not hard. But I felt bad because I was like, well, why are you singling me out? Like I'm just like so much better than everybody. Like,
Yeah,
come on, man.
I will say I read a database book one time, and I still was lost, bro. Like transitive properties and stuff like that. Like, man.
Hey, we took a software engineering class. Hindsight 2020. I think that class was probably the most realistic class of my entire curriculum, because what they did, they broke us up into teams, and we basically had a semester long project. But man, we fumbled the bag so bad on that project just being young, man. Like it was me, two girls, and then there was this one graduate student. The grad student, like, I think he got too caught up in he was doing like some like 3JS stuff. Like he was trying to do like this 3-dimensional stuff. I think he spent way too much time on that. I was kind of honestly just faking it till you make it. Really wasn't doing a whole lot. Like I was trying to do like some HTML. I'm just stealing code offline and stuff. And then one of the girls, she was trying to keep up, but it wasn't making sense to her. And then one of the girls, she really didn't contribute, right? Like every group has that one person that doesn't really do anything.
Nope.
So
That worked too.
yeah. Cool. What would you say to someone that wouldn't be able to get much financial help from family or friends, when transitioning from like community college to, Ole Miss is a very big school. I imagine the tuition might be a little high. What would you say to someone like that might not have a lot of support financially?
Man, that's kind of hard, right? Because that's a very, very difficult situation. In my situation, we had this thing called a Sumner's Grant, and I don't know if it's still around today, but basically I got full Pell, and then I also got this Sumner's Grant. So between those two, I only actually had to pay like maybe $500 to $1,000 a semester to go to school. So I definitely had an advantage that way. But it's hard to give advice, right? Because we live in such hard financial times these days. I can only imagine. So telling someone, hey, go take out student loans to go get this education, like that's difficult for me to be like, yeah, go do that. Especially on the other side of that, it's very difficult because on the other side, it's like, well, okay, if I go to school and take out this money to go to school, what should I go to school for? Do I go to school for something that I love and I'm passionate about? That may not translate into, to being able to pay that money back, versus go do something that translates into money. How's it gonna be valuable in your life? How's it gonna benefit you from a work-life balance standpoint when you're miserable at work, and then you gotta come home to whatever you gotta come home to, right? So I don't really have any advice to give other than assess your financial situation, assess, what you're trying to achieve, and just start running some numbers and maybe find some alternative paths. I think trades are overlooked these days, but trades
Facts.
bring in
Facts.
some money, right? Consistent money.
Truck driving, man.
Oh,
You make some good money truck driving. I mean, I'm not saying it's easy, right? You're gonna spend a lot of hours on the road, and I'm sure that's taxing. But to your point, hey man, the trades can be an alternative route. So on that end, so from our community, this is just me thinking out loud here. Within our community, right? Like the generation before us, like I feel like every generation before the current generation does their best to try to set them up for success, right? I have pontificated. I know that's a long word, but I have thought about if like college was just kind of the blanket like way to success that our parents kind of presented to our generation, like if you go to college, then that opens the door for you to be successful in life. And that's definitely one route, but sometimes I think, did we kind of push things like trades into the dark a little bit? Because when I was in high school and when I was kind of, going into college, man, like I feel like that's all I heard was like, go to college, go to college. I even had friends, man, I'll never forget. We were seniors and I had a friend from my hometown and he was about to graduate. I was about to graduate. And we were talking about what we were graduating in. He was graduating in criminal justice. I don't have anything against criminal justice, like if that's what you want to do. But he literally told me, he was like, yeah, I just chose the easiest major and went with that. And in my mind, I'm like, dang, man, I'm like, I get it, because you're just trying to find a way out. But was that really the best decision? And was he just maybe just told that, like maybe his support system was just like, you go to college, you'll have a way out, you'll always have employment, but think about the debt that he probably accrued, just to achieve that degree.
yeah, I would say good advice or advice in general can be well intentioned, but it may not necessarily be good. I think that
Yeah.
when we talk about, you talk about our previous generations and things like that, they can only give you advice on what they either know or what they feel like they know, right?
Yeah.
A lot of us with previous generations, the parents maybe didn't even go to college.
Yeah.
We're still like first generation college students, are still producing first generation college students to this day, in fairly decent numbers. So
Yeah.
I hate to say that is bad advice because it's well intentioned.
Right.
But
Right.
I agree, right? Like we've kind of like trades. I think trades have been looked down upon, and
Yeah.
trades may not necessarily get you out of the community that you're in, right? Because that can keep you in that
That's true.
community, but it's difficult, man. It's a very
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it's like not black and white. It's literally a whole bunch of gray.
Do you think that in today's time, a person needs a degree to get into tech?
Into tech, no.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I would agree.
Again,
with
I'm
that.
still under the belief that your most valuable experience will always be on the job.
Yep.
Maybe go to school to learn some soft skills, right? Like learning how
Yeah.
to interact with other people. But I'll be perfectly honest. I don't even think doing that. I know a lot of people in tech who went to school and whether they learn soft skills or not is still to be determined, based on how we communicate, with each other. Like we're just very like
Yeah.
technical people are just kind of
Yeah.
different in how we communicate in general. So like you talk about the whole emotional intelligence and things like that. Like I
Yeah.
think let me speak for myself. Let me not speak for everybody else. I could tend to lack some of that or a lot of that at times, right? And I went to college, so I don't think that we should be using college as a barometer of, oh, hey, you need this to get into this field, because you can almost argue tech is a trade.
Fair. That is fair. That is fair. Back when I was a team lead at one point, and I managed this guy. Now he was out of Brazil, but even over in Brazil, like the concept of like going to a university and getting a CS degree is very common. He didn't have a degree, and no lie, Hollywood, he was the best front end engineer that reported up through me. like period. Like dude didn't waste any time. He was very opinionated. He was like, this is how I feel about this. You know, he's very objective, and he got things done quickly and efficiently. You know, and I mean, hey, like you said, like I don't care about the piece of paper at the end of the day. Like
Right.
this dude is delivering value. You know.
Facts.
So
Facts.
I completely agree. I don't think a degree is necessary to get into tech. What would you say to people that want to get into tech but they want to go the non-college route? How do you think they could get their foot in the door?
That's difficult. You know, this is how I feel about the boot camps, right? Because I want to say boot camps, but I actually feel that most boot camps are predatory, right?
Yeah.
They'll have you come in, you know, you pay maybe I don't know, $10,000 was the going rate back when I was learning about boot camps. But maybe you pay $10,000, you bring your own computer to the boot camp, or maybe not for the most part. But you're learning, you know, some things, how to build some tic-tac-toe game or something like that, right?
Yep.
And then it's more of, hey, on contract basis, you know, we help you get your job, but you got to give us a percentage of the pay. Which to me, I actually don't see too much wrong with that. To be perfectly honest, if they are offering that value, because at least, again, that kind of goes back to my get your foot in the door and get that experience, because experience trumps anything else. So even if you have to do that for a couple of years, that's a sacrifice well worth it, in my opinion, depending on how much they take it, right? But a lot of the times it's hard to assess the value of one. So if I go and give you this $10,000, what are you actually giving me? Because when you go to college, you know, at least at the end of college, you're going to get a degree. Now, whether it's paperweight or actually valuable, that can be discussed and be questioned. But at the end of a boot camp, you know, it's not accredited, right? So it doesn't hold much value other than how do you perform when you're on the job, if you get the job, or at the interview process of things like that. So it's hard for me to say boot camps. What I really would recommend is maybe try junior college first. Try to get into computer science, and then try to get internships. That's how if it were me, if I was starting over, that's what I would do. I would start at junior college. I would get into computer science and hopefully stay there this time, right? And then I would try to get internships and get that additional experience, because going back to what I said before and what you just said, right? Piece of paper don't really matter at that point when you got the experience.
Yep. Completely agree. And I know we had talked about that before, but I figure, you know, someone out there that wants to get into tech, that's some good advice, I believe. What would you offer as advice to someone just beginning their journey in the field?
Man, exactly what that person is doing right now. I would ask as many questions as possible. I would try to be involved with as much stuff as possible as well. I would try to have my footprints on everything that I could possibly be present at and get exposure to, because you want to like try to really like be a vacuum and suck a whole bunch of stuff in. Even though you may not be able to remember all of it, don't get overwhelmed. Like definitely don't do that, right? But definitely go and try to soak in as much information as you can. And I think by doing that, you'll actually naturally gravitate towards what you're interested in, and really start diving deeper into there. And once you get into that whole space where you're diving deeper into something you're very interested in, the knowledge is going to keep flowing, because your curiosity is going to grow and grow and grow.
So I kind of want to, I'm going to add in my own piece of advice here. And I would say advocate for yourself. And like,
that's good.
I know that, yeah. And the reason I say that is because in Hollywood, you're aware, my first job out of college was at RSI. And I got put on a project that ultimately wasn't really coding. Like, it wasn't like C#, it wasn't Java. It was really more so configuration management with a splash of SQL and BASIC. So there wasn't a whole lot of coding involved at all. And I believe if you come into that type of environment and you just kind of accept it for what it is, and like, even if you try to learn within that track, like, there aren't very many transferable skills within that project that you can take and then try to go apply for a job down the road doing, C Sharp, Java, or even any other type of language or framework, right? Like people are going to go, I don't know. For the record, it was called LIMS. So that was the system we were working within, Laboratory Information Management System. And I'm sure if any listener that's listening that's in the tech industry, you're probably going, what the heck is LIMS, right? So I knew, or I will say this, after I got there and I put my hands on it a little bit and I kind of looked around, I talked to some other people at the job, I realized that LIMS wasn't really something that was common in the industry. So if you're just getting into tech and you find yourself in a space where you're dealing with something that's not really widely used and it's not even coding, like I would definitely say like advocate for yourself and try to get out of that situation, honestly. Like and it's hard, right? Like that's not always guaranteed. Depending on the project, depending on the company, you might be stuck, and you might have to actually try to find another job. That's not always easy, right? Especially in this current job market. But I would definitely say like advocate for yourself. Don't be scared to speak up, because I was not scared to speak up. Hollywood will tell you, like I found myself, in the HR office a couple times, kind of speaking my mind on different things, but I just felt that it was important, and I felt like the only way I was going to improve my career was if I spoke up for myself. Nobody was going to come and save me, So I would definitely say, like, be intentional, be vocal, advocate for yourself, and make sure you're setting yourself up for success, because nobody's going to come and save you. Because everybody's looking out for themselves at the end of the day, right? Obviously you're going to have good leaders that are going to try to help you, but I imagine that their help can only go so far.
Yeah. Trev stayed in the principal's office, boy.
Hollywood did too. Hollywood probably did more than me.
Dude, nah, I don't know about that one. I was just being petty at work, but we will get into that though. Victory cake.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what I would say. Like, advocate for yourself. If you're just getting into tech, be very intentional and try to find a mentor. I was blessed to meet this man right here. And I said, you know what? I'm just get in behind this dude and just follow him to the top, and it's worked out pretty well for me. But try to find a mentor, but once again, kind of going back to the scripture that I was reading, make sure that you kind of assess that person and their heart's in the right place. But that's what I would say.
It's good, man. It's good advice.
Yeah. Since tech can be such a difficult industry to navigate, what has helped you in challenging times? Parentheses. Like for me, the threat of AI taking over entry-level jobs, competition plus saturation, etc. That's a tough one for me, man.
That is.
I like.
You want to take that on first?
Yeah, I can take it first, man. I guess I can speak from firsthand experience. So, I was an engineering manager at a company. I had been there for like 5 years. Started out as a mid-level engineer. Man, I was promoted like 3 times. I was promoted to senior, then development team lead, then engineering manager. And earlier this year, they went through a layoff and I was impacted, and it was shocking to me because I was like, wow, I've been promoted like multiple times. I was given like equity with the company, and that's not something that they're just handing out to everybody, so it came as a complete shocker to me. And since then, I was able to land a senior consultant role since then, and I'm actually in the process of like getting back into even better roles. But it's been hard, you know what I'm saying? Like that's been like 4 or 5 months or something like that. Took a pay cut and kind of working my way back up. So I'm thankful for that. And I would say I even have an edge, right? Because like I have experience. I have experience. I've done tons and tons of interviews. So like I can go. What Jay-Z said, Hollywood. I am a hustler, baby. I can sell water to a well. Like so. I know. Like I can get in there and make it do what it do. But for someone that is just getting into tech, like That's hard, man. And especially with these companies saying that, oh, AI is now producing X% of our code base. I don't really know how much of that is true. But they're reporting that, and then they're offshoring a lot of jobs. It can be hard. So navigating this space, I think my first piece of advice would be to don't internalize rejection. That's one thing that I've had to constantly remind myself of. Like, if you're applying for a ton of jobs and your people are passing on you, it's not you. It's not because of like who you are as a person. Now, granted, coming into tech, you don't have a whole lot of experience. And I imagine with all these layoffs happening, there might be more mid-level senior people applying for a job that otherwise you would apply for. But don't internalize and say it's because of who I am that I didn't get picked. That honestly, 9 times out of 10, they might not have even looked at your resume. I received a lot of rejection emails where even the company even stated it. They said there were too many candidates for us to give specific feedback. So that lets me know, like, they didn't even look at my resume. They just went through the stack, found a good person. Everybody beneath them got tossed out. That would be my first piece of advice. And beyond that, I would say keep persevering, man. It's tough. It's very tough right now. I would say don't be scared to take opportunities that might not be something that you would necessarily be the biggest fan of right now. But whatever you can do to get your foot in the door, if you get your foot in the door, you can start to advocate for yourself and improve your situation. So don't be scared to, like, maybe you see something and on the surface you're like, I don't know how appeasing this is. But if you just get your foot in the door and it's a company where they have engineering teams, just try to weave your way into one of those teams so you can start gaining that experience. Hollywood.
Yeah, I agree with the tough sentiment. I would go 2 paths here. I would say the first one is networking. Get with people who are maybe in similar positions as you, and also get with people who are in positions where you want to be, and just have those conversations, ask those questions, talk about, hey, how do I get to where you are, if it's somebody like that, or hey, if it's somebody on the same level as you or in the same position as you, talk to them and have conversations about, hey, what are you seeing? What's your perspective? Because everybody's perspectives are going to be different. Their experiences are going to be different. So I think really just going back to the whole mentor type mentality and things like that will really, really help. And then the second place I would go is just this. At the end of the day, and I know this is going to sound like a cliche or a quote, but you just focus on what you can control. There's too many variables at play to really try to, you'll become overwhelmed if you really just focus on, well, AI is coming down, or this is coming down, or this isn't popular, this programming language isn't popular anymore, is this new one now, and things like that. The Bible says tomorrow comes with its own worries, right? So focus on what you can focus on, what you can actually control, and then let everything else fall into place. I know that's not like ideal, because again, I've never been in a position, like Trev, right? I've never been laid off yet, at least. Having to worry about when my next paycheck coming in and stuff like that. So I'm speaking, I want to be very, very sensitive that I'm speaking from a place of privilege and that perspective. But if I were going through that, I would imagine these are the 2 things I would focus on, is my network and the things that I can control.
I think that's a great answer. And I'm going to piggyback off what you just said, Hollywood, and say that if you find yourself getting into tech and you're struggling finding work, don't be afraid to, like, to Hollywood's point about networking, don't be afraid to tell a mentor that, as you build that relationship, right? I'm not saying on the first day you meet this person, you tell them, I'm struggling to get a job, can you refer me? I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is, as you network, as you build those relationships, don't be afraid to have, like, those honest conversations, right? That's something that I'll be candid that I've kind of struggled with, like, we get laid off, it's almost like seen like as like this scarlet letter, if you will, where you're like, oh man, I've been like marked out on the screen of a TV show, and now everyone's like, oh man, what happened to this guy, and it feels embarrassing, right? I can imagine the same if you graduated with some sort of CS or information technology, information systems degree, and you can't get a job. You might feel like, oh man, other people are getting a job, I'm not getting a job, and you start to feel like that embarrassment set in. Don't let that destroy you. You know what I'm saying? Like, and have those honest conversations with those mentors that you build those relationships with, even if it's a professor. Like, my first mentor is actually a professor from my college. And I asked him if I could use him as a reference, so don't be afraid to go to them and talk to them about some of the hardships you're facing, and just seek that advice, kind of to what Hollywood was saying. Oh, this is gonna be fun. What tools?
I'm laughing, man, because I looked at it and I already know what's
Oh man, what tools / methodologies would you suggest all software engineers know? This is so I'm not going to answer this right now, right? Not going to answer this right now, but I will say this, Hollywood. Almost every interview I do, I get asked about Agile, Scrum, and or Kanban. Now, I don't think that is something that every single software engineer should know. Honestly, like, I think as long as you know the word Agile, and not because I believe in it anymore, but because I know you're gonna get asked about it. Like, but I think as long as you know Agile, like, as a principle, okay, but beyond that, like, what are we talking about? Like,
I 100% agree with what you're saying. You should know the definition of all three of those things, and that's it. Because no matter where you go, no matter what company you go to, they make it up. It's some flavor of what they do personally, right? Like, it's
Yep.
I 100% agree with Trevor. Just know the definitions. If you know the definitions, that's going to take you at least very far in the interview process. Once you get on the job, I guarantee you they're not following you. They're not following any of the principles of any of those things.
Right. We have an episode coming up on that. So I won't go too deep, but completely agree. And that stuff is a mess in my personal opinion.
I would say this though, so to answer the question, because I'm dead serious. We're dead serious about the whole Agile, Scrum, and Kanban stuff. Definitely know the definitions. It's not a joke. Just know the definitions, because when you get there, it's not going to look how it probably should look. But as far as the tools, I would say that really documentation to me, right, is really a big thing. Learn how to read documentation, interpret documentation, right? If it were me, and I'm coming in from a software engineering standpoint, I would know two things. I would know programming language, and one of those are at least two programming languages, and at least one of those are object oriented.
Yep. I was going to say the same thing. Like, I think knowing an object oriented language, more specifically, I would recommend knowing either C# or Java. C++ is technically an object oriented language. I would not tout that as your primary language because just the age of it. So I would not go in there like, oh, I know C++. Like, primarily, I would say C# or Java. And then I would recommend knowing some other offhand language as well. In my personal opinion, Hollywood, I would recommend JavaScript or Python. I feel like those are kind of the most two popular, honestly. I think if you know one of those with an object-oriented language, then from a language perspective, you should be good.
Yeah. I think one of those should definitely be a front end language. Pretty much there's only one, right? I mean, technically there's more, but JavaScript. Learn JavaScript. I'm right. I'm not the biggest fan. Don't really like the whole architecture and the whole system of JavaScript, but they definitely learn it.
Yeah, and you said something that intrigued me. Are there any other front end languages?
Well, you got WebAssembly, right?
But
I
can you
mean,
build like a user interface in just WebAssembly?
as far as I'm aware, you should be able to. I think they're called web components. I
Wow.
mean, I say WebAssembly. I think maybe those two are the same
Wow.
actually. WebAssembly, web components. I think you can build an
Wow.
entire UI without JavaScript. Now it probably won't be great,
Wow.
but I'm sure you can
Well,
do it.
yeah, I mean, obviously you can do static, right, with like HTML, CSS. I just didn't know if outside of like that and JavaScript, if there were other ways that you could. But yeah, I didn't know that with WebAssembly. Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm pretty sure you can, but I mean, I'm gonna go double check that, and I'll correct it on the next episode if I
Yeah.
am mistaken. But I do think that web components, WebAssembly, assuming those are the same thing, maybe they're different, but you can build
Yeah.
with those as well.
I would say I don't think this is a hard requirement, but I do think it would be a nice to have on a resume is a source control. So like,
Yeah.
yeah, like GitHub. I think that would look good on a resume.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting actually because I've actually never been asked an interview question about Git. Thank God, because I mean, there's only like 4 or 5 commands that I know, right? Like, hey, I know how to add it, I know how to merge it, I know how to push it up, right?
Right.
And get the latest. Everything else, I'm googling now. I'm using ChatGPT for like, how do I pick
Yeah.
this commit, rebase? Like, hey, just give me the command so I can put it in.
Man, bro, I try to stay away from that rebase. I mean, don't get me wrong, like I've had the rebase, but like if it's up to me, I'm like, I'm not trying to fool with that rebase,
Yeah.
Hey, it's funny you bring up ChatGPT because sometimes going on a tangent, so we will get back on topic shortly. But sometimes I treat ChatGPT as like a pair programmer where like if I run into an issue, I'm like, all right, hold up. I'm like,
Yeah.
You
Yep. I agree.
But yeah, and I agree, like I've never really gotten any source control questions in interviews. I just wonder if like it just looks appeasing on a resume, like, oh, this person knows how source control works. They should be able to get in and like pull down the code from the repo. But I mean, you're right. Like I've never really gotten like source control specific questions in an interview. Any other tools, languages, frameworks you think would be good first getting into tech?
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of too many.
Yeah, I
Like I'm
agree.
trying to think of like what do I use at work, and it's and I use an IDE, right? But I assume though that everybody would use one, right? Nobody, I would hope nobody still using Notepad and Notepad plus plus, even though I'm a big
Right.
Notepad plus plus person. I would
Right,
hope
right,
that
right, right.
we're still not using that. So some of the stuff you just naturally going to have in your
Yeah.
toolbox anyway. So I don't know if there's anything additional outside of again going with the definitions of those things and.
Yeah.
Like the advice for the 2 programming languages, at least object oriented being one of them, front end being another one. I think if you have those, because everything else is kind of syntax for the most part, and you can just kind of switch the flavors of everything
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, I can't speak to like I mean I haven't been interviewed for an entry level role in since the beginning of my career, but I will say back when I was being interviewed, a lot of questions that I got was around method overloading versus method overriding. I don't know if that's still a thing, but obviously in object oriented languages that was a convention, and I got asked that a lot when I was interviewing for entry level roles. So I mean, I would just say like just know kind of those
Yeah.
educational concepts.
I promise I'm not about to go on a tangent on this, but I was asked those questions too, and I'd be looking at code bases and they're coded like they don't know what polymorphism is. It's amazing, dog. It's amazing.
That's funny, but yes, polymorphism, inheritance, all that stuff. I think okay, all right. So let's make it a little more interesting. What would give someone an edge up Hollywood? Let's we're talking about what are the basic things that we think you would need, but what are some things that if you had, it was like you think an interviewer would be like, dang, they have this. Oh yeah, we need to talk to them. Can you think of anything? I'm thinking cloud.
you know,
Now now obviously the odds of an entry level person working within a cloud platform, right, is very low. But if they had that, I think that would catch my eye, and I'll be like, dang, I like, how did they have experience with cloud? You know?
man, let me say this. Unless you have a good hiring practice in place, and I know I talked about AWS on the last episode, so I won't go too deep into that. But like AWS has or Amazon has and things like that, I think it's difficult because do you really want to show up the interviewer? Right, because then you know people have egos. Like yeah, you know, in this field, there are egos, right? Like so,
True.
I don't think there's like one thing that makes you stand out. Like I feel like an interviewer, at least from some of the interview people, people I've interviewed with, at least in the past, right? As and this is not Amazon, but like in the past of other interviewers, there's almost an ego about them,
Yeah.
right? And they get
Yeah.
they perk up when you actually don't know something. Because I'm not afraid to tell people that, hey, I don't know, I've never heard of this, right? They're not.
Yeah.
They perk up and say, oh, hey, I got you. Well, let
Yeah.
me just give you some more details. And it's like I'll never forget there was an interview one time I had about inheritance or something. They asked me an interview question about inheritance or something like that, and I answered the question. I mean, it was fairly straightforward. Then he asked, "How does the compiler know about inheritance?" Like, bro, what? Like, this gives some context to the viewers, right? You will never, ever, unless you're writing compiler code, you will never really understand or try to understand what the compiler does.
Yeah,
You have
facts,
not the
facts.
slightest clue
Facts,
what this
facts.
compiler is looking at to understand Harris. This man said, "Oh, you should go look at V tables and stuff like that." Sir, I'm not doing. I never went and looked at anything, right? Like, I was blown, dog.
Wow, that's crazy, man. I would think a good interviewer or like mentor probably would have taken that time to maybe explain it to you. Did he at least go into detail?
No, he just said something about V tables and V tables key references or something like that, man. It was that. And again, I don't even think the question was valid. Just to be very clear, I don't even think the question was valid. So even if he tried to educate me on it, like he would have went in here and out and out the other one, right?
Yeah. I've never gotten a question like that. Like even in like my entry level days, I never got a question like that, Hollywood. That's wild. That's wild. That's
Crazy,
wild. Yeah. So I think that's kind of what we would suggest. I think another plus one would be maybe like knowing like what a unit test is, or like maybe at least the concept high level of like dependency injection. Once again, I doubt an entry level person would know these things, but if you knew them, it would impress me. But to Hollywood's point, I do think someone with an ego, they might try to take it there and like one up you.
Yeah, they're always gonna keep digging and try to get you on the gotcha. So let's say you knew solid principles, right? And you start talking about dependency injection and unit tests and stuff like that. I can see you getting a question about, hey, well, how does the compiler know how to do constructor resolution or property resolution on dependency? Is like, why do I care?
Right. One thing I will say, and you touched on it, even for entry level people, don't be afraid to say you don't know. It's much worse if you just try to answer the question and you sound completely uneducated on the topic. Like that is very, very bad. As a matter of fact, I interviewed for a junior position years ago. Hollywood, that was a role when I moved to Fort Walton. And they actually asked me about dependency injection. I didn't feel confident enough to answer it. So I just told them straight up, I don't know. But I aced everything else. We did like a whiteboarding session. I was able to do the whiteboarding. And that was back when N-Tier was popular with like ASP.NET MVC. So I like walked through the different projects, layers or whatever, and got the offer. And like on one of my first days, one of the senior guys was like, he's like, do you want to know one thing that really, really impressed us? And I was like, what? He was like, you weren't afraid to say you didn't know. And he was like, that alone was just very impressive because you just owned up to it. You know, you were just like, I don't know this, you know? So I would say even for like people interviewing for entry level roles, like don't be afraid to just say, I don't know, you know? Now, obviously if they ask you 10 questions, you say, I don't know to 8 of them, that might not bode well. But I think it's fine, you know, for questions here and there to just be like, I don't know.
Yep. No, I agree.
What does your workflow look like, both when you were a software engineer and currently as a manager?
How I come in, at least as a manager, I come in with a list of tasks that we need to accomplish, right? So when you become a manager, you work at a higher level than at the kind of like story level. So not to really mention that agile framework, I'll get past that, but more about at the task level, like for building something. Oh, I need to write this piece of code, or I need to do this piece of code, right? Your focus is more on the overall project and the success of the project and the status of the project. And so my overall workflow looks like, hey, let me get status updates on where we are. Let me get status updates on if we have any blockers, any roadblocks that are potentially coming down. Where will we be in a few weeks versus what we need in those few weeks and things like that. And so going through each project and each team the same way is kind of my how I kind of start my day is like, hey, where are we at today? And it can change from day to day because you learn new, like developers are learning new stuff every day. They run into new blockers every day and things like that. So that's how my overall workflow looks like. Then it's meetings to talk about, hey, what's coming down in the next maybe quarter. What's the given status updates and to the top, right? What's the update on these things so I can communicate upwards as well. So as a manager, you have to make sure not only do you manage down, but you also manage up. So that's my work day. And then again, I still get into the weeds and I still write code. Not everybody does that, but I still do it. So at that point, after I've accomplished all those tasks, I go and identify where can my team use my help at, and I'll jump in and or try to jump in at least and help with some of those tasks as well. Because at the end of the day, I have a lot of pride in what we build as a team and what I build personally, right? And I always want to be the best, for my team to be the best. I want them to be proud of what we build. I want it to be the most stable product that ever gets released. That's my entire objective every time I'm building anything. I want it to be the most stable thing that gets released. So that's my workflow as a manager.
I have one question I want to interject with as a follow up to that. How does that change based on when priorities shift? And I mean, within reason, right? Like we know that like sometimes when priorities change, it can be ridiculous if it's just like constant. But let's say a reasonable priority shift. How does that change your workflow?
Well, first of all, I need to assess like what exactly are we losing, right? Because capacity is finite, right? I believe you said that before, right? Capacity is finite. There's only so much of it. So if something new gets introduced, something has to leave. That just is what it is. First assessing exactly what needs to leave, and not just assessing what needs to leave, but also assessing should it leave. Because if you're 95% done with a project or whatever it is, then you shouldn't sacrifice that 5%, the rest of that 5% for 100% of another project, right? Unless it's that critical of a priority to get done. So when priority shift is one assessing, what we're going to lose, should it shift, right? And if it shouldn't shift, I need to go back and have a conversation, say, hey, look, we can do this, but this is what we're going to lose. This is how far we made it. Let's just complete this, and then let's go and we'll tackle the next project. Maybe that delay us by a week or two, but it is what it is. But then also when the initiative shifts, there has to be an equal trade-off, right? Because again, if it's a 95% done here, and I'm trading off this 5% for 100% of something new, and that 100% outweighs that 5%. Well, even if you get rid of that 95%, you still don't have enough capacity to complete this within the time frame you think you can get it. So doing those assessments and math and just trying to figure out that portion it goes a lot into just, hey, initiatives or our priorities are shifting, right? There has to be a conversation. It shouldn't just be, hey, now this is the new thing you need to work on. Oh, drop everything, let's go do it. That's not how the workflow should work, because you're not doing yourself any favors. You're definitely not doing your team any favors either.
Yep, I completely agree. Completely agree. All right, yeah, I think you were going to try to answer the second part of that.
Yeah. So they said was a software engineer as well.
Yeah, software engineer as well.
Yeah. So as a software engineer, it becomes a little bit easier. And what I mean by that is that we work as a software engineer, we kind of working off a task board. Now I won't get into the agile framework again, but it's pretty much a task board. You know what you need to accomplish within the time frame that you need to accomplish it, right? So you come in and you assess, you say, hey, in your head, like at least for me, I internalize how long I think it's going to take me to complete this task. So I don't want to give an example of a task because I'll oversimplify it or overcomplicate it, right? But just say there's a task here, and we've already said that hey, it's going to take about 8 story points or a week to complete, or 2 weeks to complete, or whatever, right? And so that's the big picture. And so I take that big picture, and in my head, mentally, I'm breaking this down into smaller problems. So every
Yep.
day I have a list in my head, or if I write it down, but typically it's in my head, of a list of small problems I need to accomplish to make sure I'm on
Yep.
track to complete this. So if I know internally, if I haven't completed these, let's say first 2 tasks by the time frame I've given myself, I'm behind, right? Or if I
Right.
complete it early, hey, I'm ahead, and maybe I can go and start making things better. I start researching how can I improve upon what I just built or what I am building.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. So one piece of advice I would give is as you move into more of kind of a senior, like, because right now I'm in kind of like this senior, like consultant software engineer role. And even before this, like, did it at Wex. But I would say as you move into like more of a senior engineer role, like I think it's also good to kind of keep a high level picture of like the overall like roadmap and the overall like architecture. So I completely agree with what you said, Hollywood, about like as an engineering manager, kind of at a higher level. As a senior engineer, like I think you could take it a step down, but also I think a good senior looks at a level higher than just like a single like work item, right? Because the work that I'm doing might impact something over here, and then I'm also keeping track to kind of the point you just made. Like I'm keeping a list in my head of like the smaller problems, but then there are also like problems that creep in, such as maybe we found a bug, you know. So I add that to like my mental list, and then I'm like, okay, what parts does this bug impact? How long can we let it linger before there's like an overall impact to us either releasing to production or some roadmap? And then from there, there is some sort of risk. Then I start to take that a level down and say, okay, what things in my mental list could potentially move out so we could put that in. And once I try to work through all of that mentally, I try to come up with a cohesive like message to bring to funnel up, right? To either an EM or whoever, right? And try to facilitate that message to them clearly, right? Because an EM, you know, they're dealing with so many moving parts. If you try to bring like this super long thing and then it's very theoretical, they're gonna go, all right, what are you talking? And then I think, you know, I've been in the EM seat as well, so I know how that goes, right? Like the moment you say something to me that sounds a little flawed, like I'm gonna immediately go, all right, why are we doing this? You know, and now we've lost the point. We've lost the point,
Yep.
right? So so I think a good senior engineer, you need to come up with a concise message that you can funnel up and say, hey, this is what we need to do. Do you agree or do you not agree? And if they don't agree, then you guys iterate and then go from there. But yeah, that's what I think as a senior engineer. I think to your point, Hollywood, what you said, I think that's pretty solid, especially like if you're just kind of getting into the industry.
Yeah.
I know experienced software engineers go into management, but with your tech and business admin experience, did you have an idea this was the direction that you wanted your career to go in?
No, actually. So I actually wanted to just be a software engineer. Like I wanted to make senior. Senior was my goal. And I wanted to get paid like a senior. And I felt like once I made senior and was paid like a senior, I'd be good. Right. But as I started to get more experience in my career, become better at what I was doing, I kind of wanted more. I'm a fairly ambitious person in general. So I don't know why I thought that I could just become a senior and I would just settle there. That has never been my personality. And so, of course, when I kind of got there, it was like, well, I want a little bit more. But the more didn't look like becoming a manager. I just want to be very clear. It looked more like, hey, becoming more involved in decision makings and more involved in being able to dictate or help dictate priorities and things like that, become more of a overseer and architectural role as well. That's the path I wanted to go down. Well, how I got into management was this, at least at the organization I was at when I became a manager. The way it worked is that managers had a lot of say in the priorities that came down to the team. So as a senior, I kind of have to work on what is decided for me to work on, right? Whether I believe is wrong or is right. I mean, it is what it is, right? So I kind of got tired of that role. I'm very opinionated, and I want to make sure we always working on the right things, right? Not just working on something. My quote that I always give to all my teams is, we don't just do work just to do work, right? Like I'd rather not even do it at that point, right? I'm not just here just to do work. I want to do the right work. I want to do meaningful work, and I want it to be impactful. And so I'll be a team lead, but we get work sent down to us. It's like, why are we working on this? This doesn't make any sense. Like the requirements to it, if we ever got requirements, doesn't really make much sense. So I identified that, being a manager, I actually had a lot more say in that workflow. So I decided, hey, look, I wanted to become a manager. So when the role opened up, I applied for it, interviewed for it, and obviously got into it and have been very successful in it. But no, I don't. And I didn't really think about my business admin degree, right? Once I graduated from college, none of the degrees matter to me, right? Like I almost forget that I even have one, right? But no, it was more just I wanted to focus on being a senior, and then after I got senior, I wanted to focus on just expanding my responsibilities, and then after that, I wanted to start focusing on dictating priorities and roadmap, or help influencing roadmaps and priorities and stuff like that. So I didn't see it, but I'm here now.
Yeah. Great answer. So I can't answer that exactly, especially the part about like the business administration, but one kind of to speak on the same topic, when we were at RSI, and I kind of talked to you guys about me being on that LIMS project, and I advocated for myself, and eventually I was able to get off that project, and they moved me over to .NET, and that's when I was moved under Hollywood, and he was my manager. Hollywood, I don't know if you remember, but I remember I used to always say, I would be like, I'm chilling at this point. I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. I was like, I'm not complaining anymore, because I was just happy to be off of LIMS and be on something that was like true coding, and I'm actually like learning, And I say that to say, like, I kind of thought the same thing, like, and to be transparent with you guys, like, back in those days, we weren't, financially, we were not anywhere near the top of the food chain. And so, but the crazy part is, like, I was just happy to be learning and happy to be like actually coding and feeling like I was doing something relevant with what I went to school for. And so it was crazy that, I was willing to settle for that. And it took Hollywood getting a new job. And he's telling me, he's like, man, we can make so much more, like the national average. We're so far under that, and sending me that job. And I was like, wow, I was like, maybe there is more out there, And so I just kind of took a leap of faith. And I'm kind of similar to Hollywood in being opinionated and being vocal. And so I kind of played out the same way, where, I just kind of kept going on. And I was kind of looking around like, man, like, this is, once again, why are these requirements the way that they are? And why I feel like I could come in and make a difference,
Yep.
So that's so similar, but yeah, it's interesting how you don't really think about that like long term, right? And I feel like that just speaks to how we think of life in like these short snapshots. When God sees like he sees like the whole thing, And so it's crazy how you're just looking at one snapshot and your entire context is working off of that. And then you can, you fast forward like 10 years, 15 years of your life, and you look back and you're like, wow, like, I can't believe back then I was thinking that that's where I wanted to stay, and here you are now, wherever you are, So it's just, it's cool how that works out.
I've seen the powerful fall when the people work together as one. I need you to live or let die. Hold your head high. I'm by your side till it's one. Together we can hold